I would have loved to say that finally a show that I have loved over the years has given me a satisfactory ending, but unfortunately, The Boys season finale was far from perfect for me. In fact, I have already put this in the same league as other promising shows with terrible endings, like Game of Thrones. However, the ones who are familiar with the source material comic book series will know that the showrunner Eric Kripke has chosen a very different path from the comic book narrative. There are a few similarities, but in most cases, from who lives, who dies, to the ultimate fate of Homelander and Butcher, the show diverged from the comic significantly. So as I bask in the disappointment of a forgettable ending, I thought this might be a good time to explore every major difference between how the TV series ended versus the comic book ending.
This is for my beggar.
Homelander's death. Humiliated on camera versus a tragic warrior. The death of Homelander is one of the saving graces of a finale that is otherwise wrapped in rushed and underwhelming moments. Butcher has worked all these years for the revenge against Homelander, finally gets his moment, and he is aided by Kimiko, who has now developed new Soldier Boy-like powers courtesy of the fallen Frenchie and Sister Stage. It is a nail-biting fight sequence as Butcher and Kimiko struggle to hold down Homelander so that she can blast him with the radioactive blast. Finally, with the help of Homelander's son Ryan, Butcher is able to hold him in one place, and Kimiko does the rest, which strips Homelander of his superpowers, along with Butcher and Ryan. It is then a satisfying scene as Butcher kills the powerless Homelander with a crowbar as he begs for his life. What makes this worse for Homelander is that he is on live TV, broadcasting to the entire nation when this happens, and his humiliation is for everyone to see. In the comic series, the fate of Homelander is very different. Here, he leads a soup army to attack the White House and kill the president. In a shocking twist, Black Noir is revealed as the powerful Homelander clone created as a failsafe mechanism, and Homelander dies as a warrior, believing that he committed terrible crimes that he actually didn't, because he is actually framed by Noir for a lot of things. Eventually, Butcher kills the wounded Black Noir and marks the end of the oppressive soup regime. Eric Kripke confirmed back in 2024 that he wasn't going forward with the whole Black Noir clone narrative, and the TV version of Homelander is so despicable that a public execution with humiliation is actually a fitting end in some way. Unfortunately, I cannot say the same about the ending to some other characters, which brings me to my next point.
It's all right, Hughie. I gave you no choice.
Butcher murders his own team versus Butcher hesitates. In the TV series, Billy Butcher is almost portrayed as a sympathetic character who has only given in to his darker side because of the circumstances. But I have noticed that the TV version, played by Carl Urban, is never really capable of being the bad guy, which is a major change from his comic book counterpart. In the show, after killing Homelander, Butcher goes on to execute the soup-killing virus genocide plan that can eliminate all soups. He is worried that someone else might be the next Homelander if soups are allowed to function, and it is a pretty logical thought indeed. However, he is confronted by Hughie, who obviously wants to save the likes of Kimiko and Starlight, and he is against the virus being released. This causes a rift between the two and leads to a decisive fight where Hughie shoots Butcher dead. But what is worth noting here is that Butcher was actually hesitating the whole time and never really fought with his full potential, almost allowing himself to be killed. There is a hint of compassion even in his death as he dies while showing his love for Hughie and admitting that Hughie is a spitting image of his dead brother. The comic book version of Butcher was a lot more brutal and ruthless. He was so obsessed with ending the presence of soups in the country that he even murdered Frenchie and the female, who was the comic book counterpart of Kimiko. He also killed MM and Dr. Vogelbaum, the Compound V creator, and finally, he faced off against Hughie with absolutely no remorse and hesitation. This version of Butcher did not hold back, and he certainly did not have any love for his teammates, maybe because of his obsession over the greater goal. In the TV series, the human side of Butcher is a lot more active, and this shows when he almost gives in during his fight with Hughie. How Butcher Died, shot by Hughie versus manipulated into death. It is not just Butcher's personality that is different in the show, but even his death sequence is majorly altered. As I was just telling you, Butcher in the show is confronted by Hughie as he attempts to work further with the soup-killing virus to eliminate all soups in the world. This results in a confrontation, but there is a lot of hesitation from Butcher, as if deep down he wants Hughie to stop him. After a brief scuffle, Hughie is able to get hold of a gun and he shoots Butcher dead, and he dies in Hughie's arms in an ending that almost comes across as a tragic fate of a man who has suffered enough at the hands of Vought and the soups. In the comic series, the death scene is a lot less romantic, because of all the things that Butcher does, like slaughtering his teammates. He has a final encounter with Hughie on the top of the Empire State Building, and while fighting they fall off the building together. Butcher is paralyzed from the neck down, and he instigates Hughie enough to make him stab Butcher dead with a spike. He even lies to Hughie about killing his parents, and he is so furious that he hands Butcher a brutal death. Later, he comes to know about how Butcher actually thought from his journal, and this makes him extremely upset when he finds out how much Butcher actually loved him all along. So, as you can see, the show doesn't just have a visual difference from the comics, but also the events are very different and take place under different circumstances. Ryan, Entire Existence, TV original versus doesn't exist. In many ways, Ryan is the emotional core of the final episode, as he goes up against his biological father Homelander and brings justice for his mother and Butcher's wife Becca. It is a nice little moment as he joins Butcher during his final fight with Homelander, and he is instrumental in holding down Homelander so that Kimiko can use her radioactive blast against him. He survives the intense fight even though he loses his superpowers after Kimiko's radioactive blast affects him and Butcher as well. In the end, he walks away from both Homelander and Butcher as father figure, rejecting them both and choosing his own life. He is unofficially adopted by MM, who gives him the sense of a family that he has been longing for all his life. In the comic books, Ryan's entire existence plays out very different. Firstly, there is no such character as Ryan, and Becca, who was raped by Black Noir disguised as Homelander, gives birth to a suit baby who rips out her womb. A shocked Butcher is forced to kill the baby with a lamp, and this is how it ends for the soup child. I don't mind the change in the show because Ryan and his journey has actually added value to the narrative, and the revenge story against a father who wronged her mother also works nicely for the action-packed climax. Kimiko becomes the MVP versus Murdered by Butcher. I really like Kimiko and how she evolves across the seasons into becoming the primary weapon that immobilizes Homelander. It's a very nice twist from the showrunner as Kimiko is experimented upon by Frenchie and Sister Sage to develop Soldier Boy-like power. The radioactive blast is shown to be powerful enough to take away the superpowers of soups, and Kimiko is able to get the job done. Also, for some reason, the show narrative has a Disney-like moment, where she channels her love for Frenchie instead of her hate to unleash the radioactive blast, and it is more drama than substance. Nevertheless, she does have a happy ending as she goes to Marseille, France, to honor Frenchie's memory after being the unsung hero who ends the menace of Homelander. In the comic book, Kimiko, who is referred to as the female, never evolves to gain such new power. She is not subjected to any kind of radiation exposure, and she also doesn't have the ability to strip anyone of their power. Butcher is the one who murders the female alongside Frenchie and MM to prevent any kind of interference in his soup-killing mission. I have to admit that TV Kimiko has a lot more personality and substance if you consider her contribution in the narrative, and the comic book version is more grim but less impactful. The Seven Survivors, Poetic Justice versus Hiding. Say what you will, but as disgusting as Deep may have been, I thought he deserved to have a better character arc than the death that he received in the ocean. Basically, the show ends with the Seven completely destroyed, and everyone who served in the Seven is either dead or powerless, except for Starlight. The Deep has a final fight with Starlight, who throws him into the ocean, and the sea creatures kill him to avenge the earlier oil spill that killed thousands in the ocean. Sister Sage gets stripped of her extreme intelligence, and she becomes a normal individual once again, thanks to Kimiko's radioactive blast. The others are already dead by the final season, and even Ashley Barrett, who worked closely with the Seven, and became the acting president, is impeached following the death of Homelander. It is almost poetic justice, as the death and defeat of each individual ties to their specific crime, and it is only the good one, Starlight, who survives and thrives. The comic book narrative is not so pretty, and only the Deep and Starlight survive among the members of the Seven. They both go into hiding following the attack on the White House, and the others like A-Train and Queen Maeve are killed. In a way, the TV series ending of the Seven is a lot more satisfying, and the comic book narrative just has survivors hiding out there without any proper closure. Hughie's ending. Tech store owner versus world's dark guardian. The TV series is a story about Hughie in many ways because it is the death of his girlfriend Robin that started the journey that ends with the death of Homelander and then Butcher. He is forced to shoot Butcher dead in an emotional showdown because Butcher threatened to unleash a soup genocide that would be fatal for the world. In the aftermath of all this, Robert Singer takes over as the president, and Hughie is offered a job as the head of the Bureau of Soup Affairs. But he wants a quiet and peaceful life, and he gives up on the offer to open his own tech store with Starlight. It is quite a journey for him because he started off by working in a similar store when his life fell apart and he joined the boys. Also, it is yet another happy ending because he and Starlight end up together, and Starlight is pregnant with their daughter named Robin after his dead girlfriend. Surely the ones who like Hughie couldn't have hoped for a better end to his story. In the comic books, he still gets a happy ending, but things happen differently. Firstly, he kills Butcher under different circumstances, and he finally gets married to Starlight after they resolve their differences. They get married and move to Scotland, but there is a moment of one final confrontation where he has a tense final meeting with Vaught's former CEO, James Stillwell. He intimidates him and threatens to destroy any soup that the military ever tries to weaponize. And you can say that the ending is similar to the show because both offer a peaceful ending for Starlight and Hughie, away from all the violence.
That's why I've agreed to return to Vought as its interim CEO.
Vaught's fate. Intact corporation versus complete collapse. I love how things work out so smoothly following the death of Homelander. Ashley is impeached as the president, and Singer is reinstated. Stan Edgar regains control of Vought following the incident, and from the looks of it, I would say that Vought still remains a powerful organization. Also, the soup program's future is uncertain, but it is not permanently destroyed. In the comic book version, things don't happen like this. Here, Vought American's superhero division is essentially dead after the White House attack. They find a fall guy to save the corporation from total destruction, and James Stillwell completely loses his sanity. In the Dear Becky story arc, it is shown that 10 years later, Stillwell works in a pineapple farm, where he is mentally broken and unstable. By the end of the comic series, superheroes are essentially gone from the world and rendered insignificant, which is not the case in the show. In fact, I dare say that the show actually leaves room for a continuation, because many of the twisted and evil soups are still at large.
All I gotta do is pull this trigger.
The Virus Plan. Stopped genocide versus eternal blackmail. I have already spoken about how the show has a cinematic and dramatic end to the whole soup virus ambition of Butcher. After he plans to release it into the water supply, he is stopped by Hughie, who is forced to shoot him dead. But it is implied that Butcher is actually happy that he doesn't have to go through with the plan. The virus is never released, and even though the primary threat is neutralized, there are still soups who survive, including Starlight and many others. In the comic series, Butcher targets just about anyone with Compound V in their system, from heroes to villains. And it is a planned global soup genocide. Hughie stops Butcher by killing him, but he still makes sure that Vought is blackmailed for life to never activate their soup program again. Both the endings stop the genocide, but the aftermath is vastly different. And I like the comic book climax better because of how it ends with a lot of importance to Hughie and his stand. All in all, it is not the changes that hurt me, but the fact that the show really killed the expectations of the fans. It is normal for a live-action series to stray from the comic book source material, but we certainly didn't deserve a rushed and half-baked ending. All the build-up across the seasons for things to end up like this simply don't make any sense to me. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the show ending, and tell me whether you like the comic book narrative more. Also, if you appreciate the efforts to bring you this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.